But if you speak the language, you're in. So all they've done is taken what you've done in a fraternity in secret, and they brought it out into the open. But now with their spirit and their fearlessness and their willingness to die as well as to kill, that becomes a force of fear now. And so the mothers are crying out, for God's sake, let's get rid of the gangs. No, mother, don't cry out to get rid of the gang. Cry out that the gang gets the right idea so that they become protectors of the community. The reason the police fear the gang is because the police have been the only gang in town. Huh? And they have ganged up on us. So now something is coming up that they fear. What I'm suggesting is that what we want to do is turn a negative thing into a positive force. Not destroy what God himself is allowing to be created. You don't want to destroy the El Rukans. You want to put in their hearts the vision and the idea of Noble Drew Ali, the idea of Muhammad, the idea of Garvey, so that they have a vision, so that they work to build community and not tear community down. This idea of mothers and political leaders fearing the gangs and crying out to bring in the National Guard and bring in the troops, it's because they're so afraid, your parents, that you're going to get killed. And before you get killed in gang conflict, they're saying, for God's sakes, politicians, can't you do something about the gangs? So your mothers and the black politicians and the black intellectuals who are at their wits' end to know how to deal with our young people, they are being used to call for the government to bring in the soldiers. And when the soldiers come, they come to do what they had been prepared to do. That's kill your youth. Look in Los Angeles right now. The so-called gangs, the Bloods and the Crips, have come together. They have decided on their own, we're going to stop this. Why did they decide to stop it? Because the idea of Muhammad, the idea of Malcolm, the idea of Martin was beginning to take root, and they saw the folly of killing one another. So the idea is coming to birth in them, giving them a new vision, and so they embraced each other. And when they embraced each other, the police became alarmed. Instead of the police rejoicing, the police became alarmed. The parents were happy because there would be no more drive-by shootings. And now the police, so excited by the unity of the youth, are doing everything in their power, as I am told, to destroy that unity because they want to see our young people killing one another. So we have to ask ourselves the question, is this a plan? Yes. This is why the mortality rate of black people is so high. No prenatal care is emphasized, and our young sisters are not protected in their ideas of sexual involvement. So what happens is we're having a lot of babies, but with lack of knowledge, our babies are dying. Dying from lack of care, but also dying from disease. So this is all, again, part of the plan. Not only do they fear the youth today, they don't want the babies to come to youth. That's right. Education used to contain us. Today, the dropout rate is 50%. In Chicago, they said 45% of the youth drop out of high school. That means what? If you drop out of school and you need a high school diploma to get a job at Wendy's, and there aren't but a few jobs at Wendy's. So without a high school diploma, what kind of job will you get? Nothing. You either go in the army, and it's so high tech today, and with the Russians not being a threat, the army is not putting ads on that Uncle Sam needs you. That, as you notice, is being played down now. So there is no future for you. Boy, this is really something. The murder rate in the black community over the last 9 years has been 100,000. In 9 years of war in Vietnam, the total loss was about 59,000 that lost their lives in Vietnam in 9 years in a battle zone. But in the ghetto, in the last 9 years, we've lost over 100,000 lives to violent death, which means that it was safer to live in Vietnam with planes dropping bombs and people shooting than it is to live in the ghettos of North America. So we're dying in the streets, and we're filling the jails. There's 1,200,000 people in federal and state penitentiaries. 70% of those are black. And in some prisons, it's as high as 80 and 85% black. These are the young men, mostly, that you young sisters would be looking for to marry. They're in jail. They're in the armed forces, but now the army is releasing them because they have no more need for all those soldiers in Europe. So they're coming back to America to be released into what? No jobs. So here's more youth trained to kill. And nobody to kill, so go back in your ghetto and kill each other. Prison reform never occurs because those incarcerated keep going out and coming back, going out and coming back. There's no reform. We pay, or the taxpayers pay, $27,000 to $35,000 a year to keep us in juvenile detention. And the government is willing to pay that to warehouse you, to keep you going in a criminal mind, to make you homosexuals. Yes, sir. The black family is destroyed, so we're producing the death in our community. There's no family structure. The poor black woman is having children by men, but there are no men in the home to help her with the child. So the black woman has to work, or she stays home on welfare and watches television. So who's rearing your children, mother? It's their peers that are rearing them. It is television that is rearing them. There's nobody to provide little league team sports for black youth like they provide for young white boys. We got to do it the best way we can. And so gangs are inevitable, and guns are inevitable, and drugs are inevitable because it's part of the overall plan for the destruction of our youth. The police are recruiting our young people in some instances to sell drugs. Drugs is a $200 to $300 billion industry, more than General Motors, more than General Electric. So drugs is corrupting judges, police chiefs, senators, congressmen. So when you are in the drug climate, which the black community is getting deeply involved in it, there has to be guns and territorial disputes and more death on a young generation that is born to get liberation for the whole. So here we are, young men, expressing the male ego in terms of self-destruction. Popping someone with a Uzi is a way of expressing our manhood today. How many did you kill? Well, I drove by and popped several. I don't know how many of them died. You know what I mean? I'll look at the news tonight. And that's insanity, isn't it? But that's because of a denial of the idea of God growing in their heads. And this is why the rappers have become so feared. Because Public Enemy, KRS-One, Sister Soldier, Ice Cube, Prince Akeem, D.A. Smart, the young Muslim rappers are putting words of wisdom from the vision, from the idea in a rap. So the young brothers now so the rappers that are progressive are helping to interfere with the overall plan and objective of the enemy. So now the rappers are being targeted because the youth are listening to the rappers. The youth don't think that any leader is qualified to lead them. And they are not wrong. Most of the leaders are not of the mind and spirit to harmonize with black youth. But you know what? With Moses there was a Joshua. And he spoke the language of the youth. And with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, there is a Farrakhan who speaks the language of our young people. Well, what is the solution? How do we utilize this wonderful spirit of our young people? Not breaking up the gangs, but giving the vision to them that they may continue to organize, but organize to protect and build the community rather than to destroy it. How do we